Welcome to the JT and Looney Podcast, post Super Bowl, February 11th, 2026. The Nancy Guthrie Podcast, episode True Crime. Hello, Tom. I missed you. I hope you're doing well. You look fabulous. You're wearing an Iron Mike Tyson shirt. I'm surprised you don't have those shirts in frames and you still put them through the laundry.
Oh, you can. I'm one of those. I like functional art. So to wear the shirts, if I had an $8,000 couch that also looked like a snake, I would sit on it. I wouldn't say, "Oh no, that's a museum piece." I'll never be the guy with plastic on my furniture saying, "Don't sit on that couch." I always want my functional art to be functional.
Speaking of that, we're doing a home remodel as we speak, the upstairs edition, because one son has moved out, the other one hopefully will soon, and paint, carpet, demolition, tearing stuff out, taking everything off the wall, repainting. And you know what I think is art is all of my jerseys,
Right.
all of my jerseys framed. To me is art. I don't like landscapes, pictures of Paris and places like Tuscany maybe, but art to me is a Jim Brown jersey next to a Julius Erving jersey. That's art to me.
You've said that for 20 years. I keep telling you not to say it into microphones, but you keep doing it anyway. And the great thing about art is you say to yourself, I don't need to see one more painting of a landscape or a vase next to an apple, right? And then you see the greatest painting of a landscape you've ever seen in your life. It's great because art and great art can change your mind about what you think great art is. The artist can change your mind. There's not bad art. There's just bad artists. Just like history is not boring and science isn't boring. Teachers are.
Whenever we come into the podcast, I never want it to be about me. And it always ends up being about me. And this is going to be one ahead of time that's a lot about me because I just came off my 29th radio row. 29.
Wow.
Yeah. And
you're 29th Super Bowl. Wow.
Yeah. 29th radio row because I finally asked when I checked in and got my credential. And they had the ability. They told me my first one was 98 in Arizona. And it all made sense. But there was 60 Super Bowls, and I'm 60. So it's easy. How old's JT? He's the age of the Super Bowl. Wow. And out of 60 Super Bowls, it's fair to say that this Super Bowl was not in the top 40. So to do simple math, this was in the bottom 20 Super Bowls ever played, with all a wink and a nod to Seattle, who's having their parade today. It was 9-0 at one point. It was 19-0 at one point. The Patriots looked like they forgot how to play football. I think the easiest bet in the history of the Super Bowl was Seattle minus 4.5 all week going into the game. What'd you think?
Well, it's always easy to say the easy bet after the Super Bowl or the sporting event is over, of course. But this is one of those situations, how many times did we go to a 12-round decision fight? Way too many. But it was great to be at the event. And every once in a while, it's a boring fight because the two fighters are so evenly matched. And it's like a chess match. And it's the sweet science. And average fans are bored to death by that, as they were by this Super Bowl. So you end up enjoying the event, the camaraderie, the pizza, the wings, the person asking stupid questions about football who never watches football. And there's other ways to just enjoy the event if you don't have a great game. And that's what it was. It was an incredible event. I didn't mind the halftime show. I didn't think our nation was in crisis. I don't look to the halftime show to bring us together. I look to presidents and leaders to do that. And I just had a great time. Very sentimental. I always go all the way back in the hot tub time machine to the first time I watched a Super Bowl. It was in my best friend growing up, Craig Malinowski. He's a doctor now on the East Coast. And the boy that always did his homework, right? Those are called doctors. And it was the Cowboys and the Dolphins, 24-3. The Cowboys they're my first favorite team. I've never mentioned that out loud. So it always takes me back. And I can, like Christmas Day over the years, I can always say where I was during the Super Bowl. And so I love the event, but the game wasn't that great.
Well, the big takeaway was Sam Darnold won the Super Bowl, and he was in the quarterback class with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and a bunch of great quarterbacks, and he's the first one to win. And unlike Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, who have won multiple MVPs, right? Josh won one, Lamar's won two. Sam Darnold was thrown out with the trash. Like the New York City now landscape, the city's got a lot of trash. He was thrown out to the trash. He was a backup quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. He played for the Minnesota Vikings, won 14 games. Okay. Lost the NFC, didn't go to they had the last game against the Vikings for the 1 seed. He lost. Then he played in the opening round and lost. Minnesota said, oh, no, that's not good enough. We've never won shit ever, including Fran Tarkenton, Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham. We're going to get rid of you, Sam, and go with J.J. McCarthy. Oh, how'd that work out? And then here's the best one. Geno Smith left Seattle. Seattle gave him a qualifying offer. Geno said, no, that's a little bit less. He goes to the Raiders with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll gets fired. Geno has the worst year I've ever seen for a Raiders quarterback. And Sam Darnold's lifting the Lombardi trophy. How nuts is that, Tom? How does that even possibly happen?
It's a great redemption story. And, ever since he was benched in Carolina, that's also part of this story as well. And then when he was taken off the bench in Carolina, since that debenching back in the day in Carolina, he's the winningest quarterback in the NFL. And it's just great to see. This says more about the Jets than it does anything. And there's one particular team I think never needs to be talked about in sports talk radio, and that's the Jets. They don't need to be talked about. Our grandfathers remember when they were good. If our grandfathers are still alive. So it was Joe Namath wasn't any good. I got to see Joe Namath when I was this tall play. He was awful. The commentators just loved him and talked about how great he was as he played awful every Sunday. So I never got to see the great Joe Namath, the amazing Broadway Joe. But the Jets ruin everyone's career our entire lives. They've been good, never great our entire lives, mostly bad our entire lives. And if any of your favorite players ever get drafted by the Jets, it's like, he's done. Right? All the way back to Anthony Davis from USC, the greatest football player I ever saw. He was drafted by the Jets. I thought, okay, done. Career done.
It wasn't a great Super Bowl because the game wasn't iconic. They didn't have a signature play. You want a fun fact? I've been sitting on this one forever. Kenneth Walker became the first offensive MVP to win the Super Bowl without scoring a touchdown since Fred Biletnikoff in Super Bowl 11. Okay, this was 60-11. That's how rare this was. He got the MVP. And nothing, Tom. I guess we don't like field goal kickers. Is 5 out of 5 not good enough for an MVP for a kicker? Was that not good enough?
It's weird with the MVP. I was discussing it before the game with our former producer, Raider Ryan. And
he's always the best.
Yeah, we were just we were throwing out names as far as MVP. And I said, it's always a quirky name. It's strange. And then it stopped being quirky when they decided, let's not give it to whoever's supposed to get it. That's the Ray Lewis effect. Back in the day, let's not give it to a bad guy, even if he's the best player on the field. That was probably a good idea back in the day. So they've always, I think I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but there's been funny business over the years, and they try to steer it towards the quarterback usually. And so I'm surprised they just didn't give it to Sam Darnold anyway. So I spoke with him about that, and I said, whoever deserves it most likely won't get it. And that was the case here.
And you want to talk about a surreal moment, if that's the right word. I'm sitting there yesterday interviewing Clint Kubiak in Las Vegas, the first guy to interview him on radio. And 2 days before, he called all the plays in the Super Bowl. His dad was the head coach of the Broncos. A lot of people forget that. They think it was Shanahan. No, it was Clint Kubiak's dad. Gary Kubiak won Super Bowl 50. His son wins Super Bowl 60, flies to Vegas with his wife and 4 kids. I interview him. He's standing on stage with, get this, Marcus Allen, Mike Haynes, Jim Plunkett, Howie Long, Charles Woodson, and Rich Gannon.
Wow.
What a power move. He comes off the stage. He comes over to me. I do, 6-7 minutes with him. And he's a big praise God guy. God had a plan for me. Yeah, God had a plan for him. He was New Orleans offensive coordinator with Derek Carr when Carr got off to that 4-0 start. He was the guy that helped Kirk Cousins throw for 4,300 yards and 36 touchdowns. And no nothing, the best part, he was the guy who rebuilt Sam Darnold in San Francisco as the coordinator under Kyle Shanahan. Now he's the head coach of the Raiders, and he will be given Fernando Mendoza.
I can't wait
to build Fernando Mendoza. So I wanted to share that. That was really cool.
And Fernando Mendoza's been making some. He's a drinker. I didn't think he was a drinker. They always painted him as such a goody, but that's because of his aura seems so cotton candy. But I just saw an interview yesterday where he was talking about his favorite beers when he was before he had money, and it was whatever he'd get his hands on. He sounded like us back in the day when we were teens and in our 20s, and he looks like a fun guy that's going to be in early and out late, as are most NFL players. We say that about quarterbacks and people all the time, but a lot of the great guys that make it to that level are always the first in the gym and the last ones out, and I look forward to watching him play.
Couple of big things. So I got off Radio Row. I got a couple of big things I want to tell you. So I did Radio Row, interviewed Bo Jackson. Now, I interviewed Bo once before on the sidelines doing TV before a Raider game. He sat down with me, Bo Jackson, and we had an unbelievable conversation. All the Hall of Famers, as always, Tim Brown, Marcus Allen, Rod Woodson, Anthony Munoz, all our guys came by. A lot of how's Looney doing? Bumped into some friends on Radio Row. I had a great moment with your Benny and the Penny partner, Ben. Ben found me. We sat down and had an amazing moment. I was never tight with Ben. Ben was on after me, after us. He does work with you. Really proud of that. Ben's the longest running sports talk host in the history of Fox.
Wow.
And I had that title for 17 years. Ben surpassed me. And we sat down knee to knee while I was before the show. We spoke for about 20 minutes about you, his career, the shenanigans of radio, overnight radio, late night radio. I just wanted to share that with you.
Oh, that's great.
We had a great conversation, and I'm really happy that he found me and we were able to talk that way.
Yeah, you guys talked about sharing custody of me, which is fun. One thing that's about Ben, he always tells me "F you" when I say this. That he's one of the smartest people I know. He doesn't realize how smart he is, and he thinks he's funnier than he is, which he always says "fuck you" when I say that. But he really is one of the smartest people I know, and not one of the funniest people I know. But he thinks he's one of the funniest people you will ever meet, but he doesn't realize how smart he is. And he's a great camaraderie conversationalist. Good guy.
I want to tell one more story because my voice isn't perfect. I apologize. I spoke a lot, man. I was up there. I did a 3-day casino weekend with Charles Haley, Rod Woodson, Bill Romanowski, and Marcus. I was on the mic for 3 days. It was a lot of talking, but I did my last ever, I believe, late night show from the Super Bowl. And I wanted to share that with you.
Why don't you want to make it 30?
I might make it 30 because it's in LA.
Oh,
and I think you would be great to do it with me. But I'll tell you, man, I was on Radio Row Tuesday night. And when I started my career, there was Pharrell. There was the late night guy in Dallas. Oh, there's the late night guy in Atlanta, all coming together. There's like 10 of us on Radio Row at night. Nobody there but me. I texted you. I called my wife. I said, that's it. I missed the media party. I had some good shows. I said, no more. I did it. No one will ever surpass me. No one will ever do 29 Radio Rows late at night when no one's there. And it was kind of a drop the mic moment for me. It was very, very emotional that I felt like I don't have to do that anymore. I've done it all. I'm done.
Yeah, and it would be nice if you, and I understand why you're saying that. I also remember how close you came other times to saying F this when Stools Up in Dallas when they had the black ice, and you were really proud. You booked the world's largest Hooters, and we had incredible remotes planned, and they closed down all the roads and told everyone to stay home, and it was you and a microphone
by myself
and nobody else at the world's largest Hooters.
I was called the Stools Up broadcast. Yep. All the stools were on top of the tables. All right, so we got into the Super Bowl. The next thing's the combine. It's the draft. We'll have plenty of coverage here. I want to get to Nancy Guthrie. That's the whole focus of this podcast.
I mean, I'm laughing because we've been texting about the obsession.
Yes. Nancy Guthrie is an 84-year-old woman, the mother of Savannah Guthrie, from the Today Show. So it looked like she went missing, but then it evolved into a kidnapping for some type of cryptocurrency. Savannah is a celebrity, but she's not Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, or J-Lo. She does the news. That's it. Her mom lives in Tucson. So we pray that her mom is found. Right? We want her to be found. It's still an ongoing story. Someone went up to the Ring camera with a mask on, tried to cover it up, and it looked like something happened and she was in harm's way. Can you tell me why this story knocked the global economy off the news? The Super Bowl, Epstein, the Epstein files. I'll go one step further. It knocked Gaza, the Ukraine war. I want to know what's going on in Ukraine. Is Russia bombing or is Ukraine bombing back? Why is this country transfixed on Nancy Guthrie?
It's odd. We were texting back and forth, and I was talking about before 9/11, Chandra Levy was the intern in Washington. She had an affair with a congressman. Did he kill her? She was found in the woods. And Larry King was bringing in psychics to try to, that's how pathetic the coverage was back then and the obsession. And because nothing else was going on. And then 9/11 happened and knocked that off the pages. And I was Googling about this today, knowing we were going to talk about it. And it gets on the nerves, especially of not only news junkies is one thing, but forget us. It gets on the nerves of people who have missing relatives all over the country. And people who have missing relatives, and the police will say, well, people have a right to disappear and don't help. And so they see a whole country helping and a whole network helping. And then the other media obsession, because it's an easy story to go to, which sometimes the media is lazy. And that brings me to that. The media, the news media can be really lazy. Sometimes you watch the nightly news still. What do they do so often? If it's snowing in Manhattan, they think, what are we going to lead with? And then they look out the window and they lead with snow in Manhattan. Well, people in Pittsburgh, Kansas, watching the NBC Nightly News or whichever news they choose, don't care if it's snowing in Manhattan. And a lot of times people think of the news media as being liberal or whatever, or fake. It's lazy. The number one problem is lazy. And so people go with that story because it's easy and it's lazy.
A lot of times I like to put the 4 box up on my YouTube TV to see what CNN and Fox are doing. CNN's great with the weather. They're great with hurricanes. Mm-hmm. CNN, you know how much better CNN is than Fox when it comes to missing people? CNN is so much better, it's not even close. Fox is great at yelling about politics. I lean towards Fox more than CNN. And both Fox and CNN were leading with this. So the Epstein files had another release. And there were a lot of people on it. I'm not talking like politicians. There were people.
Some of my favorites, my Tucker.
Right. There were a lot of people being canceled. And I'm like, oh my God, the Epstein files aren't on TV tonight. And then there are young boys and girls trafficked every day, which would mean a young 14-year-old girl in Albuquerque goes missing. She gets trafficked over the border to Mexico by the cartels. And she's never seen again, ever. She's gone. And Nancy Guthrie, every segment, David Muir opens up the news with 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. I hope she's found alive. I have nothing but positive thoughts to say. I just thought that this news cycle to me was one of the most bizarre of my life because it built and it built and it built more. And we've forgotten so many other people, Tom, who have gone missing.
And it's so, and having anchored the news for so many years here in LA, the past 5, I watch and see these patterns of lazy things that happen. When holidays come up, they go out to the airport and they stand there and they tell you that the airport's busy. I don't know. It's a good visual. It's not news. When there's a big Arctic blast hitting the Northeast, and they will say 240 million people in America bracing for cold weather. Well, that's not even true. What does that mean? They're under a desk? No, they're just going about their business. No one, it's the opposite is true. No one's bracing. And what does bracing mean? And they copy that word with each other. And no, they're not. They're just living their lives or staying home because it's snowing, but no one's bracing. And so they get into these habits. They do another one over the holidays. This is a completely fake story. In LA, they do this one. The CHP will be in their maximum enforcement period over the holidays looking for drunk drivers. Well, because they don't want to say it's the best time to drink and drive because all the cops are off. So they come up with this fake thing called the maximum enforcement period. All available officers will be out there. Yeah, none are available because everyone's on vacation. So it's completely false, but we can fill 30 or 60 seconds, depending on how long your format is, with this lazy story that everyone else is doing that we're being fed by the CHP, and it's not even true. So there's a lot of it's laziness. The number one problem with news media in general is not a political bias, it's laziness.
No, I'm going to push back on you on this one. I'm going to push back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great television executives who make their bones on ratings. Their job is they are the general manager of the radio or the television station.
Right.
They're the vice president of the cluster. They are going with this story because it's the number one story in their mind for ratings. And what I'm trying to connect with you on this podcast is
push back with that. I understand that. Go ahead.
What I'm trying to come to a conclusion with before we find out what happens to this nice woman is why. Is it the crypto aspect? It's got to be the Savannah Guthrie aspect, that we think that Savannah Guthrie is such a star that her mom going missing is bigger than Gaza. I haven't seen any news out of Europe that I want to see. I follow the stock market and the economy. The stock market passed 50,000 on the Dow for the first time ever. That would have been the lead story, 400 out of 401 days. And it didn't get a mention because of Nancy Guthrie. And I think it's because the world we're living in now of these crime podcasts. The reason why these books and these podcasts that are number one are crime and mystery is because our country loves this platform of mystery abductions, Tom.
Well, Unsolved Mysteries. I love the show. And there's new ones on Netflix. I'm fascinated by it. And yeah, you hit the point. Yeah, it's about ratings and revenue, and we are and crime podcasts, and they're taking a look at all that and saying, wow, all the top podcasts, winking it on to Joe Rogan, are crime podcasts. By the way, a little sidestep. Did you notice they tried to link Joe Rogan to the Epstein files? They say, Joe, why is Joe Rogan's name in the Epstein files? Then you click, and you find out it's because Joe Rogan said, I'm not having lunch with him. Epstein wanted to meet Rogan, and Rogan's going, no thanks. So let's tip our hat to Joe. He avoided any type of nobody else could resist hanging out with the rich guy. Joe did.
First thing I just did on Twitter is I put Nancy into the Twitter search, and it came out as the number one trending topic. First thing I read, I wish there was as much attention on the missing children in the United States as there was for Nancy. I keep scrolling down. Investigators find a black glove on the road in search of Nancy's kidnapper. New York Post. Investigators have found a black glove on a roadside near Nancy's house. Breaking, black glove found. You know the last time I heard the term black glove?
OJ.
Yep. So we are transfixed in America with solving mysteries. And the Epstein files is a massive mystery where we have a lot of evidence, but there was no video. There was no video there, as we know of. So we don't know who got off the plane. We have to go get plane documents, all that. We have to wonder what happens here. Again, the reason I wanted to jump on this podcast with you today is not because I don't feel for Nancy and Savannah and the family.
Of course not.
I was gone for 6 days. Every time I got back to my hotel to take a shower, I had an hour downtime. I threw on the TV. There was no Super Bowl coverage, nothing on Ukraine, nothing on the economy. It was Nancy Guthrie, and I was in Fisherman's Wharf, California. And this happened everywhere. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you first, what happened? What happened to this 84-year-old woman who was at home and someone was trying to get into the house, Tom Looney? What do you think happened?
Wow. And the 3 words, I had to tell a young colleague this who was coming up in the business. And I had to tell him, I don't know, doesn't work in talk radio, right? Because that's all he ever said all the time on the air. I'll tell you who that was later. And that's what the problem with this is. They have so little. And this also, they should also dovetail into how often people are missing. And is it as often as we are told? And in most cases, they solve them quite quickly. And it's not even tragic. And what happened? And do I think it was something inside or because it was a famous person's mom? No, I think it was probably random and it got out of hand. And I don't know if the ransom notes have anything to do with what really happened. That's my feelings so far.
I will go. Someone wanted to go after Savannah Guthrie's wealth. And I don't know how much she makes, but she makes multi-millions of dollars. She hosts the Today Show. She doesn't host a crime podcast. She makes millions of dollars. Someone, I believe, in the Tucson area, related to the family, not blood related, but know the family, thought that this was an opportunity to get a payday through a cryptocurrency by kidnapping her. And now it's exploded to a global story where that person just wanted to get a payment, have this go away, release her. She's back. And now the FBI, Scotland Yard feels like they need to be involved. Do you believe Kash Patel and the President of the United States are commenting on this story from the Oval Office? Something doesn't add up here, Tom. Something doesn't make sense. I think this isn't the Lindbergh baby, man. This isn't the Lindbergh baby with Charles Lindbergh. This is an 84-year-old woman in Tucson.
Yeah, I know. And the question also about the Today Show host or news anchor. By the way, what does she do on the Today Show? I don't watch the Today Show. I did as a little boy. My mother had it on the kitchen. So, and also there used to be 4 channels. Right. And so if you hosted the Today Show, it used to be a much bigger job than it is. Tom Brokaw used to do the news on the Today Show. It was a plum deal. Barbara Walters was a host on the Today Show. Mrs. Brady, Florence Henderson, was a host of the Today Show. It has a great history. Mr. Bubbles, a chimp, was the host of the Today Show. It's got a great history. Bryant Gumbel, etc. But it doesn't. There's no more household names really on the Today Show. So I'm surprised that they didn't go. Really, you think that there's a wealthier person's relative in Tucson than the host of the Today Show?
I mean, Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, and Mondavi, who just took over as the mayor of New York, and there's trash all over the streets, and that is either starting off bumpy or not, whatever. I don't want to get too political here. Those two, Gavin Newsom, Omar in Minneapolis, what the hell happened in Minneapolis? The last 10 days, I haven't seen a blip. Minneapolis was exploding. I mean, every day in Minneapolis, riots. What happened? Individuals getting shot. Gone from my news feed for an 84-year-old woman in Tucson who's gone missing. I wanted to put this podcast on record because I want to go back a year or two from now and say, what has happened to our psyche and our mindset with the media? There is direct media coming at us that's directing what we're supposed to watch and telling us what to not watch. And they're directing this type of television at us. I find it fascinating.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it's and I think I don't know if we agree on this, but not that it's to agree or disagree, because I think you're right and I think I'm right. I think it's also lazy, but they also sit in those corner offices and say, "Yeah, these unsolved mystery podcasts are number one. That's what the people in our demographic are interested in." So it's a combination of lazy and rating.
Let me get to a topic that you're going to like. The beautification of California. I just got back. I spent 4 nights, 5 days in San Francisco. Holy shit, it was gorgeous. Now, it was all about the weather. San Francisco, as you love the Noe Valley, and I love North Beach, if you get a 10 out of 10 on weather, it's the best city in America.
Yeah.
The reason why San Francisco is a top 10 city is because it's got culture, it's got beauty, it's got the bay, it's got the ocean, it's got bridges, the Muir Woods, everything. Holy cow, was it great. So the other side of the false media narrative was I walked to my studio and I saw a needle on the street. Someone was defecating behind a dumpster. No, no, no. No, San Francisco was gorgeous. Now, if the weather was a 5 out of 10, I probably wouldn't even bring it up. But it was so magical. It was like Los Angeles when Malibu has Santa Ana winds and it's supposed to be 60 and it's 89 and everybody's rollerblading. Tom, I had a beautiful time. San Francisco was fantastic.
Always been one of my favorite. As a matter of fact, people leave their heart in San Francisco, as the song goes. Anybody put politics aside and all the biases people have about that. You go to the city, you can't help not loving it. I learned about architecture by going and the difference between a Victorian home and a St. Anne home, because that's all there is. And it still looks like 1909 in San Francisco. It's amazing looking, and they keep small businesses small. They don't have a lot of chains, so it's John's Tacos or John's Burgers rather than McDonald's, and Tommy's Donuts. And it's and another thing about California too is it's always a target, but it's the fourth largest economy in the world if it were a country unto its own, and it's actually always doing quite well, which isn't the narrative, but you could always point like they're doing with the you could no matter who was elected mayor in New York, you can always point at garbage, and no matter who's elected mayor or governor of California, you can always point at a person living in a tent. Unfortunately, it's a culture.
Hey, here's the problem. Yeah, here's the problem going forward for LA. So San Francisco has Market Street, which a lot of stores have closed. Yeah. Like Walgreens have closed because people would just walk in and take whatever they want and walk out. That's a fact. That's not made up. That's not fake news. So San Francisco and the Moscone Center, south of Market, is where Radio Row was. And the rest of the downtown, it's such an old city that the curbs and the streets, the 1908 earthquake, right? Same streets, just repaved. Right. So the infrastructure is very old. So if you want to go over one side of the city or the other, like a trolley car, you climb these streets and then you get to the top at Russian Hill, and then you look over. Oh my God, you could reach out and touch Alcatraz. You can see the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was fabulous. And did they clean it up because the Super Bowl was there? Absolutely. Here's the problem with LA. LA has Skid Row. Skid Row is enormous. San Francisco has homelessness, but they have an area called the Tenderloin that has, it's a smaller version of Skid Row. Los Angeles has the World Cup, the Olympics, and the Super Bowl. Unless they deal with the area downtown around Skid Row, now, not a lot of people are going to go there. They're going to be in Hollywood, Inglewood, Malibu. But how do they get ahead of that in your city and make sure it looks like San Francisco did? Because San Francisco looked tremendous.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of, there are a lot of tremendous looking parts of LA, and whether they take care of that or not, we will not have the support of unlike any other, it's crazy. We will not have the support of the president or the federal government when it comes to it. They might even be happy to sabotage it, according to their words, not any conspiracy on my part. And so that's a little difficult with the World Cup and the Super Bowl coming and the Olympics, etc. When you're not sure, you're not sure your federal government has your back, or it might pull some financing that the city thought it was going to get. So it's not going to be an easy road to hoe. But whether or not we have enormous events happening in LA, nothing unusual for that to happen. And then the city usually there's always a panic ahead of time, and the city handles it just fine. The 1988 Olympics, or a peak, it was 88, 92, 88 Olympics, or 84 in Los Angeles. We're a beacon of hope for a future. Everyone wanted the Olympics after LA pulled that off in 84. So LA will pull it off. LA pulls off enormous events all the time.
So what else are you up to? I haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks here, at least on the podcast. You look great. I know you've been going on auditions. You're always in touch with your family and friends. Is the weather good? Do you feel like, this is the biggest topic of all, those scoundrels. Oh my God. Last night in Los Angeles, the Lakers quit at 2 p.m. What a story. I'm doing the show on Sirius XM. Wembanyama's up by 30. My producer says, do you know what's going on? I go, yeah, I think so. He goes, LeBron's out, official load management. Night before, he's dancing. He's dancing. They got video of him dancing, moving his arms up in warm-ups. He's dancing. So he played Oklahoma City the night before. He sits out on purpose, says, I won't go back-to-back. He makes $624,000 a game. Decided not to play. Luka, little tenderness in the hamstring, fine. He's Luka. Austin Reeves isn't playing. All the other guys aren't playing. And Wemby wins by 30. Every person who went to crypto paid to park $40 a cheesecake. They went to their seats with their little son or daughter, their boyfriend or girlfriend or partner, and they got effing ripped off. I'm sick of this shit. It happened with the Lakers, but it happened in Utah on the same night because they want to have a night off before the All-Star week where they get off. This has got to come to an end. How do you fix it?
Well, I'd like to thank your friend Greg Popovich for beginning the load management era in the NBA. This is what's great about being a Laker fan. It's people just wait. There's 29 other teams in the NBA, but people wait for the Lakers to make a false move. And it's just, I get to watch LeBron James almost every night. He's no Kawhi Leonard, JT. He's playing it in unbelievable. He's the same age as Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers doesn't play that good week in and week out. And LeBron plays a lot more games. He's going down the line like a freight train, or people are getting out of the way. I like LeBron James game. Look at, and I love this all-star team that we've got here in LA. And Luka's incredible to watch. And I'm spoiled. And so is it annoying? And I absolutely agree with you that the fans got ripped off. But I'm spoiled. I'm loving watching this Laker team when the guys play.
Last topic. Pitchers and catchers report today. They have to go before everybody else. If you're a third baseman, you don't have to come. It's pitchers and catchers. How does it feel knowing the Dodgers have won this on February 11th? Every single athlete who said goodbye to their wives and kids grabbed their duffel bag full of their gloves and their bats, showed up at their facility in Port St. Lucie or the Cactus League, and it's over. The Dodgers don't even pay their players. They defer all the money. They've got this thing in the bag. It's over. We don't have to wait till September or October. How does it feel to go back to back to back, Tom?
Well, you got to play the games first, and remember the way that they struggled all last year. Those World Series games, Game 6 and Game 7, and the 18-inning game, or however long it was, that was the epitome of the Dodgers season. And the thing I was worried about last season was, is it going to be like the definition of insanity, where they're just going to bang their head in the wall? This is all the way up until the postseason, and bring in those terrible bullpen pitchers. No, got rid of them all. They used all starters, and which I did not think that they were going to be smart enough to do. So last year's World Series ring, as you witnessed, was not an easy get. And is it ever, even if you've got an all-star team? And that'll be, again, just like with the Lakers, it'll be great to be cheering for a team that everyone's, that's like onions. Everyone are going to love them or hate them, but it's never easy to even repeat, let alone three-peat. You know that.
Everybody prove to us that they subscribe and share, please. Please prove to us that you're listening so we can continue to give you this content. My new hot button with this podcast going forward, you might not think it's better than Smartless or Joe Rogan, but the winner of the Golden Globe for Best Podcast was Amy Poehler. And I swear on my kids, this podcast is fucking better than Amy Poehler's. So if we don't make $1 million with this content, I'm okay. But we should make more money than Amy Poehler. Thanks for listening to the JT and Looney Podcast.